Hey there folks, this is Deckard Spade, and today we're going to take a trip into SNK territory. Now some people have a preference for Capcom's Street Fighter series, but their contender and rival, SNK, has been known to make games that have given Capcom a run for their money. Arguably, the most prominent series is the King of Fighters games, each one usually being a tournament that's had its own set of stories and backgrounds, but took characters from all over the SNK universe to make their roster. Games such as, and forgive me for marring any names, Garou, Mark of the Wolves, Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, and even Psycho Soldier, to name a few. And to me, I remember playing some of these games growing up. SNK pushed the limits of fighting games back in arcade systems, and they weren't afraid to make things a bit experimental, even in recent years, to push the limits of games both 2D and 3D that they made. And they had anime released of their games over the years, such as Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury 2. Well, there was a Fatal Fury 3, but it wasn't really tied into the games. But really, it was all just enjoyable 90s cheese. I liked it. Even when they forayed into the 3D realm of King of Fighters Maximum Impact, they took care to polish and properly represent the characters. Now, while most fighting games aren't really known for story development, the King of Fighters series has been going on for a while, and it acknowledges all of the games and series that they've had up to this point. And you can't argue that the King of Fighters series doesn't follow a theme. First, somebody decides to send invites to all the strongest fighters to hold the King of Fighters tournament. Throughout the fights, somebody seems to be measuring the power and capability of each fighter, and then by the end of it, there's either a financial backer trying to weaponize a fighter, or they're trying to steal the power from someone who's even more powerful than themselves. Still, this game has more development in story and history than others. Even if we don't count some of the side titles and some of the 3D ventures that they've made, King of Fighters has had 14 games in its series. And while Street Fighter has had multiple games, hell, they spent 4 games trying to catch up to the storyline of 3. And how many times have we had M. Bison be responsible or be the main villain of the game? I get the feeling that M. Bison should be rolling over in his grave. That is, if he didn't keep coming back. SNK gets it right by following chronological order. Hell, Terry Bogard and Geese Howard are still fighting, and he ended up training his son into a fighter that's now on the roster. All of this said, we've come up and down a shaky road with SNK and their experimental themes. SNK is widely known for their arcade releases rather than the things that they release on console. Ultimately, while they have some fan favorites, they still lack the familiarity of the Street Fighter series. So this brings me up to today's topic, King of Fighters XIV. The game has been out for a while at this point, but it just released several new backgrounds and 4 new characters for DLC. With all of this in place, does the game hold up against previous titles and other fighting games? Well, let's find out. You can play the game in story, versus, training, online, or in missions. Online does have a ranking system, and from what I've seen so far, is a bit spotty. The netcoding isn't bad, but it is sectioned off by area unless you set it to do otherwise. If you want to get a handle on how the controls work in the game, I would play with the tutorial and the missions. Now, I've been playing this game for a little while. Back upon its original release, SNK Playmore decided that they wanted to limit the amount of things that could be streamed. They allowed people to play versus content online, however, they wanted to keep the story as something that people could purchase and experience. They recently have relaxed their policy on this, as the last time I tried to play, they allowed story mode to be streamed. Still, they give a big old reminder to respect their content at the start of the game. I can't fault them for this, so the only thing I'm going to say about story mode is it's par for the course. It sets the stage for a new set of tournaments to be played and a new story to start. There isn't much to it, and if you want to see it, I encourage you to play through it. There are also multiple ending scenes per team, so feel free to play through the ones that you enjoy. At any rate, the real meat of the game is found within its roster. Prior to the DLC, there were 48 characters that you could play and 2 that you can unlock. As of April 5th, they've added another 4 characters. Each one costs about $6. While I'm not thrilled about the pricing, I do think that the characters are worth it if you enjoy playing them specifically. The game still functions without them. Much like previous titles, this game also has single-player combat modes and team combat modes. The major difference is, if you're playing single, you have several rounds to fight with your character. if you're fighting in team mode, you end up having your characters fight in sequential order, meaning you start with one character, and if he gets knocked out, the next one in line jumps in. A lot of these are fan favorites that are from the previous generation games. And despite this game being in 3D, it takes the classic two-dimensional fighting mode that most games play. All of the moves are used between 4 different types of strikes, these being light and heavy punches and kicks. If you can time them right and use your moves correctly, you can create combos. However, for newcomers to the game, there is an easier option. For new players, they have set the light punch button to cause an auto combo. This means if you keep pushing the button, you'll end up with a combo that ends in either a special or a super. Do you have to use this? No. This combo system does not, however, outdo a person who knows how to play the game. It's meant more as a way to introduce new players to the system. Now, is this game worth buying? Yeah. This game is a stable 3D fighter that you can enjoy with your friends. The game's controls are a bit flawed and difficult when you're trying to do anything more advanced, but it's far from unplayable even if you don't know some of the more advanced moves. Really, this is what the tutorial is for figuring out, but if you get stuck, there's also a move list inside the pause menu. I also found that the AI was fairly scaled, but for those of you who are masochistic, you can also raise the difficulty. King of Fighters XIV is a warm addition to the series at this point. This game was given a 3D facelift for the next generation and is friendly to both new and old players alike. I highly recommend it. I think that's about it for our time, so as always, thanks for staying a while to listen.